All right, guys, in this video, I'm gonna go through exactly how and why I left my job in corporate America to do real estate full-time, how I did it step by step. All right, for those of you that are in the Facebook group or maybe following me on Instagram, this might not be such a surprise to you because I've been documenting a lot more of it over the last couple months via podcast, via Facebook group, Instagram, just documenting a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that I've been doing. But for the rest of you, this might be coming as a little bit of a surprise because for the last 6 years, I've been focused exclusively on a corporate job or kind of keeping a corporate job organized to do my day-to-day business. For any of you guys that are looking for a little bit more detail in a written format, I posted this also on LinkedIn or Facebook. Those will probably be down below in the show notes, but that goes into a little more depth of how I did this, why I did this, what my mindset was. But I know some of you guys like the video version, so I wanted to just jump into that. All right, so I graduated from Hofstra in 2015. I played golf there, but when I graduated, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do next. I kind of got lucky. I met some people who were able to help me, and I started getting really aggressive and reaching out to tons of people trying to figure out maybe how to find my footing, what jobs I wanted, what I thought could maybe make the most money, what I'd be good at, but really not sure. At the beginning, I was getting a lot of feedback from people to maybe go into steady jobs, be an accountant or a teacher or something that could kind of just be secure, but that wasn't exactly for me. So I just started reaching out to tons of people. It's how I met my first mentor who ended up helping me get started at the company and just kind of took it from there. During that time, I did develop this system though with a friend of mine actually, Max Bidna, where we were thinking about how can we get jobs or get interviews and stand out in a way where we didn't have to apply like everyone else. This will be a separate video, but through that system, I was able to obtain 35 interviews without applying to a single one of them. And this company, NetApp, was one of them that I started at. But anyway, 2015, get a job, moved down to Raleigh, North Carolina. And at that time, I started getting really interested in real estate. A friend of mine, Chris Montez, actually pointed out a podcast and then a book. The podcast was Bigger Pockets and the book was Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and said, this might be something you'd like, you might want to check it out. And kind of right from there, I was really into it. It seemed like a pretty straightforward way to start making money on the side, start building net worth, and potentially retire early. So I just started digging into everything, listening to podcasts, reading books. I ended up reaching out to the first 120 Bigger Pockets guests. So if any of you guys are watching that, thank you for getting back to me. For those that didn't though. The strategy that caught my eye, some of you guys may know it already, is house hacking. What that really means is you're buying a primary home, and because you're living in it, you could put down as little as 3 or 5%. And when you're living in it, you can do something where you rent out either the other rooms or the other units, and that's where the house hacking part comes in. Because if you rent out the other rooms or units of the house or a single family or a duplex, quad, triplex, whatever, then basically you're either offsetting your cost of living or you're living completely for free or maybe even making money to live. So that's what I was able to do with that first one. Some of you guys listening to this might even have been my first roommate, so thank you guys. But that's how I just jumped in. And from there, I was hooked. The thought of getting rid of a housing cost and making money, that was it. So when I didn't have a housing expense, all I started doing next was saving that money, thinking about how I could invest that money into the next property or the next investment. And the trick with house hacking or FHA loans is you have to live in the property for 1 year. So on day 366, you can do that exact same strategy again. You just can find another deal. So that's what I did 2 more times. In addition to the house hack, I bought 2 more properties with 2 different partners. One of those I ended up buying out and I still have today. The other one I purchased with my dad and we ended up selling that one last year for a pretty good profit and some good cash flow along the way. Before I left Raleigh, I made 1 more purchase with a strategy called an FHA loan. It was a purchase of a 4-unit property. I lived in one part of it and rented out the other parts. And the cool part is with an FHA loan, you can put as little as 3.5% down. So you don't have to come up with a lot of money and you can buy multifamily property. And in that case, live in one part, have your tenants pay the mortgage, and then still offset your cost of living. The hack with that is almost any time you'd be buying a 4-unit, the least you'd be able to put down is 20%. So in this case, you can bypass that if you do an FHA. Strangely enough, right after that purchase, I actually got promoted to move back to New York to do the job that I'd always wanted to do or thought I always wanted to do as an account executive. And I panicked a little because I thought you had to live in the property for at least a year before you rented it out. And just a good learning for anyone that's curious, you don't have to stay in the property for a year if you have a life circumstance or a job change, something like that. So in that case, I was able to move and rent the unit out immediately. So at the time leaving Raleigh, I owned a 4-unit and 3 single family homes. So when COVID hit, I just knew I had to do something. I needed to either get busy looking for property leave or go live somewhere that I actually liked or just do something. But I looked at it as an opportunity to compress these goals that I had. And that's when I hit the road. I went to Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana for about 3-4 months and met a lot of you guys. That's been amazing, and started building a network and a brand around the podcast and the Facebook group, and started to look for deals. Now, while I didn't find a deal, or at least close on a deal during that Midwest trip, like I said, I made tons of relationships, but it also showed me that I could do this full time, and it was something that I was really passionate about. But I didn't think it made sense to quit my job because I was playing this game where every week I would ask myself, how could I do this job in 10 hours or less? Now, if I actually did it in that, it didn't matter, but it's a fun exercise. I actually recommend it for anyone. It's from Tim Ferriss' book, where you just kind of ask yourself, if I had to do this in this time or this time frame, how could I do it? And that's what I did. And like I said, I was also just really burned out in New York. I didn't want to be there anymore. So I felt like this was my best chance ever to compress some of these goals from 2, 3, 4 years down into 7 months before I had to go back into an office. Because I kind of felt like at that point, I was ready to just either quit or be fired, and I wouldn't have cared. So what happened between then and now? So right about that time that I left for Kentucky, I picked up 2 more short-term rental properties in North Carolina, and then this past winter was able to pick up 2 more properties, one in Black Mountain and then another one in Pinehurst. I also started doing a couple other businesses, wholesaling and flipping. For those of you that are in real estate, you know what that is, but for those that aren't, it basically just means you're either flipping houses or you're finding houses that are off market, doing maybe a little bit of work or not even any work, and just selling them to someone else, just passing it through wholesaling or assigning the deal. I also started a course with a partner, a mastermind, podcast, Facebook group sponsors, and collectively was able to piece together enough income to cover more than my basic needs. And then after these last 2 properties, be at a place where I was definitely comfortable to cover my needs. Between all those streams, right now my monthly cash flow is anywhere between $12,000 and $18,000. And the current goal for this quarter, which I am happy and proud to say I am on track for, is to be at $30,000 a month in passive real estate and business cash flow. So what's the takeaway in all this? What can you do if you have a job and you want to start building passive income or cash flow or getting into real estate? 1, if you get value out of this video, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. I will be posting at least 1 video a week, probably more like 1 to 3, but it'll be all about the tactics, tools, tricks, ways that I was able to achieve this in 6 years, and all the other things that I'm thinking about in the next year or 2 of how I'm going to build this business. Number 2, start developing a side hustle or whatever you just really like doing. One of my biggest learnings over the last 2 years, going a lot harder in this, is that you can make money doing something that you actually enjoy and turn it into a business. And if you actually really love it, there's a good chance you'll be able to make more money doing it than you were in your old job. And you'll have all your time back. So even if you aren't making as much, it doesn't matter, because you'll be able to be happier or find other ways to make money. Number 3, evaluate what spending actually makes you happy. One of the biggest things that I learned when I was just getting into this is I was spending so much money on stuff that didn't matter to me. Things like clothing or eating out or drinking. It wasn't fun for me anymore, but I just did it because that's what I thought you were supposed to do. Now I realize I'm only going to spend money on things that I actually enjoy, like travel or golf or giving or doing things with friends, but not stuff that doesn't actually mean anything to me. Number 4, do not quit your job. Most corporate jobs during COVID, especially during COVID, will give you enough time and rope that you can start building a business or a side hustle on the side that can only be further enabled because of your corporate job. So for example, in real estate, I wouldn't have been able to buy the properties that I bought if I didn't have the job. But on this last property, it was the last loan that I was able to get. So at least I felt like I got all the loans and all the properties that I could because of the job. So when people ask me, John, do you think I should quit my job, or does it make sense to kind of do this more as a full-time thing instead of a side hustle? I usually say no, because there's a lot of benefit in having the job. It just becomes more a matter of managing your time and doing the most important things all the time. I've said this before, but I'm dead serious about it. Try playing the game with yourself where every week you're assessing where your time is going. And think about if there are ways that you can do your job in 20 hours, 15 hours, 10 hours. If these jobs are impact or outcome-based jobs, it really shouldn't matter how much time you're putting into it. So just figure out what the most important things are in your job and only do those things. I'll have other videos about time management or prioritizing based on a bunch of books and coaching that I've had. But basically, you should be able to work a side hustle job and your full-time job and build them both and be very good at both during the same time. So that's pretty much it, guys. Kind of just ran through my background, my story. I hope you guys got some value out of that. And I just want you guys to take away that you can do this in a much shorter time than I did. I did it in 6 years, but if I knew what I knew starting out now, I feel like I could do it in 2 or 3. Just a matter of kind of getting into the right things or thinking about money in the right way and just deciding what your goal is by what age and what you're willing to do in order to get it. So if you have any questions, feel free to just drop a comment below. Or if you're in the Facebook group or follow me on Instagram, just shoot me a DM. Happy to talk to anyone about this. There's no sell, there's no push. I just love talking to people and helping them see ways that they can build a side hustle business, because my true belief right now is that having one stream of income, one job, one source is the most risky thing you can do. I used to think it was the safest thing, but now I really believe it is the most risky thing you can do. If you get laid off, fired, and you have all these expenses and no cash flow that comes in when you're not working, what are you gonna do? So it's only a matter of time before kind of the world changes. So why not try to build this up while you have the time and energy right now during COVID? Hit me up, guys. Be great. Talk to you later.